The Crius were four beautiful golden-winged rams that had the power to speak and fly through the skies. Their name means ram, associated with the constellation of Aries, or the ram. Their wool was so bright that it dazzled anyone who looked at them. They were the children of Poseidon, the god of the sea, and Theophany, a nymph who had been transformed into a sheep by Zeus, the king of the gods, to protect her from the wrath of his wife Hera. Zeus created the Crius to help his two grandchildren, Phrixus and Helle, the children of Athamas, the king of Orchomenus, and Nephele, a cloud goddess. Phrixus and Helle lived happily with their father until he married Ino, the daughter of Cadmus, the king of Thebes. Ino hated the children of Nephele and wanted to get rid of them to favor her children, Larcus and Melicertes. Therefore, she devised an evil plan. She bribed the peasants to burn the wheat seeds, causing a great famine in the kingdom. Then, she sent a false messenger to consult the oracle at Delphi, who supposedly said that the only way to end the drought was to sacrifice Phrixus and Helle. Deceived by Ino, Athamas accepted the oracle's order and took his children to the altar, where the priests were ready to slaughter them. But at that moment, the Crius appeared, sent by Zeus, who landed next to the children and spoke to them with a human voice, inviting them to mount their backs. Phrixus and Helle did not hesitate and mounted the winged rams, which took off from the ground and soared into the air, leaving Ino and the others behind, watching in astonishment and rage. The Crius carried Phrixus and Helle across the sea to the east, searching for a safe place to live. During the journey, the rams told them many stories and legends about the gods and heroes and taught them the names of the stars and planets. Phrixus and Helle were amazed by everything they saw and learned and became very fond of the Crius, whom they called Chrysomalis, Chrysopolis, Chrysotomus, and Chrysocephalus. However, the journey was not without dangers. At one point, the Crius had to pass through the strait that separated Europe from Asia, where two huge rocks moved and collided with each other, crushing anything that stood in their way. They were the Wandering Rocks, or Symplegades, which had been placed there by Zeus to prevent the passage of mortals. The Crius narrowly managed to dodge them, but Helle, scared, let go of the ram that was carrying her and fell into the sea, where she drowned. The place where she fell has since been called the Hellespont, or Sea of Helle. Phrixus, deeply saddened by the loss of his sister, continued the journey with the Crius until they reached the distant land of Colchis, a kingdom ruled by King Aeetes, the son of the sun god Helios. There, Crius told Phrixus that he had reached his destination and that he should stay and live with Aeetes, who would welcome him as a son. They also told him that he should give the fleece of one of them as a token of gratitude and friendship. Phrixus chose the fleece of Chrysomalis, the most beautiful and bright of all, and offered it to Aeetes, who accepted it with joy and hung it on a sacred tree near his palace. There, the fleece was guarded by a terrible dragon, which never slept and breathed fire from its mouth. Phrixus bid farewell to the Crius with great affection, thanking them for all they had done for him and his sister. The Crius told him that they would always remember him and that they would see him again someday. Then they flew away into the sky, where they became a constellation which has since been called Aries, or the Ram. Phrixus stayed in Colchis, where he married Chalciope, the eldest daughter of Aeetes, and had 4 children, Argus, Melas, Phrontis, and Cytosaurus. He was happy there, until many years later the Argonauts arrived in search of the Golden Fleece. The Argonauts were a group of Greek heroes who embarked on an adventure to retrieve the Golden Fleece and return it to Iolcus, the homeland of Jason, the leader of the expedition. Jason was the son of Aeson, the rightful king of Iolcus, who had been dethroned by his half-brother Pelias, a cruel and ambitious tyrant. Pelias had promised Jason that he would return the throne to him if he brought back the Golden Fleece, which was in Colchis, thinking it was an impossible mission. Jason accepted the challenge and gathered the best heroes of Greece, such as Hercules, Orpheus, Castor and Pollux, Peleus, Theseus, and many more. He also had the help of Athena, the goddess of wisdom, who gifted him a ship called the Argo, built by the master carpenter Argus, with the help of the sea god Poseidon. The Argo was a magical ship that could speak and sail by itself, and had in its prow a piece of wood from the Dodona forest, where there was a famous oracle of Zeus. The Argonauts set sail from Iolcus, with the favor of the gods, and headed east, following the route taken by the Crius with Phrixus and Helle. During their journey, they had to face numerous dangers and obstacles, such as the sirens, creatures with the body of a bird and the head of a woman, who sang with such a sweet voice that they lured sailors and made them crash against the rocks. The wandering rocks, or symplegades, which moved and collided with each other, crushing anything that stood in their way. King Phineus, who had the gift of prophecy, but had been punished by Zeus with blindness and the harassment of birds called harpies, which stole his food and dirtied his palace. King Aedes, who set them 3 impossible tasks to deliver the fleece: plow a field with bulls that breathed fire from their mouths and nostrils, sow dragons' teeth that turned into armed warriors, and defeat the dragon that guarded the fleece. But the greatest challenge the Argonauts had to face was love. Jason fell in love with Medea, the daughter of Aeetes and a powerful sorceress, who helped him obtain the fleece and escape from Colchis. Medea was a beautiful and intelligent woman, but also impulsive and passionate. She fell in love with Jason from the moment she saw him and decided to betray her father and her brother Apsyrtus, who pursued the Argonauts and joined Jason on his return to Greece. For this, she used her magical arts, which had been taught to her by the goddess Hecate, the Lady of the Night, and witchcraft. Medea gave Jason an ointment that protected him from the fire of the bulls, told him how to sow the dragon's teeth and how to make them kill each other, and helped him put the dragon guarding the fleece to sleep. She also saved his life several times, such as when they had to pass through the Strait of the Symplegades, which they managed to open with a trick. They released a dove, which passed through the gap left by the rocks, and then followed its example, taking advantage of the moment when they separated. Medea also killed her brother Apsyrtus, who had caught up with them, and dismembered him, throwing his pieces into the sea so that her father would stop to collect them and give them time to escape. Thus, Jason and Medea managed to obtain the Golden Fleece and boarded the Argo along with the other Argonauts to return to Greece. But their adventure was not over, as many surprises and misfortunes still awaited them. Jason and Medea had obtained the Golden Fleece, the goal of their adventure, but they still had to escape from Colchis, the land where it was guarded. King Aeetes, Medea's father and the owner of the fleece, was enraged when he discovered that his treasure had been stolen and that his daughter had fled with the thief. Therefore, he gathered his army and fleet and set out in pursuit of the Argonauts, determined to recover what was his and to punish the guilty. The Argonauts, who had departed at night with the help of darkness, realized that Aeetes was closely following them and that he would soon catch up with them. Therefore, they looked for a way to mislead him and gain time. Medea, who knew the secrets of magic well, proposed a plan: to kill her brother Apsyrtus, who had come with Aeetes, and throw his pieces into the sea so that her father would stop to collect them and give them a burial. Jason, blinded by love, accepted Medea's plan and helped her execute it. Thus, when Apsyrtus approached the Argo, pretending to want to negotiate, Jason lured him into an ambush and killed him, while Medea dismembered him and threw his limbs into the water. The plan worked, as Aeetes, upon seeing the remains of his son, stopped to collect them and mourn them, ceasing to pursue the Argonauts for a while. But it also had consequences, as the gods were angered by the crime of Jason and Medea and sent them a curse, which would haunt them for the rest of their lives. In addition, the Argonauts lost the favor of Zeus, the king of the gods, who prevented them from returning to Greece by the shortest route and forced them to take a longer and more dangerous route, which would take them through unknown and hostile places. Thus, Jason and Medea, along with the other Argonauts, embarked on the second part of their journey, which would be even more difficult and risky than the first. They had to sail through the Phasis River, which led them to the Caspian Sea, and then through the Oxus River, which took them to the Indian Ocean. There, they encountered new threats, such as the islands of the Hesperides, where there was a garden with golden trees, guarded by a dragon and nymphs who shot poisoned arrows, the Libyan desert, where the heat was so intense that the Argo dried up and cracked, and the Argonauts had to drag it through the sand until they found an oasis. Lake Tritonis, where there was a temple dedicated to Athena, and where the Argonauts met the lake nymphs and the inhabitants of the region, who helped them repair the Argo and replenish their strength. The Strait of Gibraltar, where there were two huge mountains called Calpe and Abila, and which were known as the Pillars of Hercules, because the hero had separated them with his strength, and the Mediterranean Sea, where they had to navigate through the islands of the Sirens, the Wandering Rocks, and the island of Crete, where there was a bronze giant named Talos, who threw stones at the ships that approached. In each of these places, the Argonauts had to fight, suffer, and overcome the obstacles that were presented to them, but they were also able to enjoy some moments of peace, joy, and discovery. In some cases, they had the help of the gods, such as Athena, Hera, Aphrodite, and Apollo, who protected and guided them. In others, they had to rely on their ingenuity, courage, and skill. In all, they had the support of Medea, who used her magical powers to save them from many dangers, such as the dragon of the Hesperides, the heat of the desert, the arrows of the nymphs, and the giant Talos. Thus, after many adventures and vicissitudes, the Argonauts managed to return to Greece with the Golden Fleece in their possession. But their odyssey was not over, as many surprises and misfortunes still awaited them. The Argonauts had arrived in Greece with the Golden Fleece in their possession, but they still had to face the last test, the tyrant Pelias, who had commissioned the mission and who had no intention of fulfilling his promise to return the throne to Jason. Pelias had learned that the Argonauts had returned and had prepared to receive them with hostility. He had fortified his palace and had gathered his soldiers and allies, ready to defend himself from any attack. Jason, who knew that Pelias would not hand over the throne without a fight, decided to use cunning instead of force. With Medea's help, he devised a plan to deceive Pelias and make him renounce power. The plan consisted of the following. Medea would disguise herself as a priestess of Hecate, the goddess of magic, and present herself before Pelias, offering him a gift, the possibility of rejuvenating and regaining his vigor. To prove that she was not lying, she would show him a trick. She would take an old ram, kill it, cut it into pieces, and put it in a pot with magical herbs. Then, she would make a young and alive lamb come out of the pot, which would jump and bleat. Pelias, impressed by the prodigy, would ask Medea to do the same with him, and she would accept, with one condition, that his daughters be in charge of killing and cutting him into pieces, and that she would take care of reviving him. Pelias, confident and greedy, would accept the condition and would order his daughters to follow him. Thus, Medea would manage to have Pelias killed by his daughters, and Jason would be proclaimed king of Iolcos. The plan worked perfectly, and Jason and Medea achieved their goal. But it also had consequences, as the gods were angered by the crime of Pelias and sent them a new curse, which would haunt them for the rest of their lives. In addition, the inhabitants of Iolcos rebelled against Jason and Medea and expelled them from the city, accusing them of murderers and usurpers. Thus, Jason and Medea had to flee from Iolcos with the Golden Fleece and their two children who had been born during their journey. Jason and Medea wandered through Greece, looking for a place to live in peace. But in every place they arrived, they encountered the hostility and rejection of the people who feared and hated them for their crimes and their magic. Thus, they had to go from city to city, from kingdom to kingdom, without finding a home. In some places, they had to face new enemies, such as King Pelias of Corinth, who accused them of having killed his father Creon, and who tried to kill them, King Aegeus of Athens, who welcomed them in his palace, but who later discovered that Medea had tried to poison his son Theseus, who had arrived from Crete, and King Glaucus of Euboea, who fell in love with Medea and who died after putting on a tunic she had given him, which was impregnated with a deadly poison. But the greatest enemy Jason and Medea had to face was disenchantment. Jason, who had grown tired of Medea and who wanted to improve his situation, decided to leave her for another woman, Glauce, the daughter of King Creon of Corinth, who offered him a political alliance and a more peaceful life. Jason told Medea that he no longer loved her and that he was going to marry Glaus, and asked her to leave Corinth along with their children to avoid problems. Medea, who felt betrayed and humiliated, did not accept Jason's decision and swore revenge. For this, she used her magical arts, which had been taught to her by the goddess Hecate, the Lady of the Night, and witchcraft. Medea sent Glaus a poisoned gift, a dress and a golden crown which stuck to her body and head and burned her to death. Then she killed her children, whom she had had with Jason, to make him suffer more, and escaped from Corinth in a chariot pulled by dragons, which had been sent to her by the sun god Helios, her grandfather. Thus, Jason and Medea separated forever, and each followed their destiny. Jason was left alone and unhappy, without love, without children, and a kingdom. Medea took refuge in Athens, where she married King Aegeus and had another son, Medes, who gave rise to the people of the Medes. But her happiness did not last long, as she had to flee again when Aegeus discovered that she had tried to kill Theseus, his legitimate son. Medea left for Asia, where she founded several cities, and where it is said that she died and turned into a goddess. The story of Jason and Medea highlights how universal themes of love, hate, loyalty, and betrayal, along with elements of magic and fate, continue to resonate in contemporary culture, showing their enduring impact on artistic and literary expression over time.